Hey guys, I'm back with another video with Classic Fresh and Classic Hardcore Fresh coming right around the corner. I thought it was a great time to go over some warrior leveling builds, talent guides, and just things of that nature. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to say that I am streaming level 60 content hardcore over on Twitch. I do raids, and then I'm also planning on playing the Fresh Hardcore server as an Orc Warrior. So my stream's right above. I'd appreciate it if you check that out. And I also wanted to say thank you for reaching 1,400 YouTube subscribers. It's been a grind, and I really, really do appreciate the love, guys. So let's go ahead and get started. This is off the top of my head. Again, I like to do a lot of these videos off the script, or with no script, I should say. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with our basic build that pretty much everybody should be using, in my opinion at least, and that is arms leveling. Now, before I get into this, you're going to see right here on this talent calculator, there's points left. And then if you see if I put points in there, it'll tell you the required level of what you would need, or what level you would need to be in order to get the talents that I'm talking about. Now, this is kind of strictly more of like a leveling guide video. I'm not going to go all the way to level 60. I'll probably go through a couple builds up to maybe level 30, 35, 40, just because there's probably not a lot of people that will either make it that far right away, or maybe not even play the game at that point. So let's go ahead, and like I said, we're going to start with our arms build. Now, always if you're going to go arms, you want to put points in rend right away. Now, why that is because obviously pretty much after level 25, rend is essentially useless and a waste of rage. However, for the first 25 or 20 levels, rend is actually really good. And that extra damage that you get per tick makes a massive difference in leveling. I think from a perspective, when you first get rend in your level 4, when you start getting talent points into it, it goes from automatically from a 6 damage every 3 seconds to almost a 10 damage every 3 seconds. And that's a big difference when you're leveling in the Barrens or potentially Silver Pine Forest or any other mid-teen leveling zone. So you always want to put your points in rend first. And now this is where you can get a little crafty. Obviously, if you're playing a hardcore version, you don't really care about the reduced costs on heroic strike. You usually want to go parry, or yes, you want to go deflection, parry chance. That's what I usually do anyways, especially since I'm going to be tanking dungeons anyways. I always tank dungeons no matter what warrior I'm playing. I always go ahead and I start by putting some points in deflection. Now, you're already level 14. You can go stance mastery if you want. I am against stance mastery this early. Stance mastery or tactical mastery is easily the most important talent in endgame. But right now at level 14, especially if you're only tanking RFC, or if you're Alliance and you're getting ready for dead mines, you can literally tank with the two-hand. I talk about it all the time in my videos, and you can literally just tank it sitting in defensive stance. There's no reason to be switching stances for anything. Thunderclap is, to me, a very overrated spell, especially if you're not using it endgame on heavy hitting bosses. It's a waste of time. You're going to be sitting in defensive stance anyways. But what you do use a lot more of is charge, especially in the open world and leveling. So here I like to keep deflection at 2, and I like to immediately put those 2 points in charge. And now that you're kind of left over here, you can put more. You can start building your tactical mastery tree if you want to. You don't have to yet. So what I do is I usually put 2. I usually go all the way to deflection. So I already get a 5% parry chance at level 19. That's big. Now, why parry is big is obviously more mitigation for you in the open world and tanking, but it also allows your auto attack to hit faster after you parry. A lot of people sleep on deflection or parry. Parry lets you use, or lets your tune hit your auto attack faster after a parry, believe it or not. So you are sitting at level 19. You do have access to deep wounds, which isn't that big of a deal, especially since your crit percentage is really, really low. And especially if you're in phase 1 of these fresh servers, you're not going to have world buffs to buff your crit. I just don't see value in deep wounds right now at level 15. What I do see massive value in, though, is overpower. You get overpower procs all the time, especially as a low level warrior. You're always fighting mobs. Let's say you get the ability at 12. Let's say you're 14, 15. You're just always getting overpowered chances, and improving the critical strike chance of that by 25 off of 1 point, and then obviously 50 after 2. I mean, that's just insane value, and you're only level 21. You're guaranteeing half your overpowers or crits already at level 21. That's big. Now, this is where you can decide if you want to go into deep wounds or if you want to start building your tactical mastery. Now, for me, at least, I don't really stance as an experienced warrior. I don't really start really diving into stance dancing until I get my berserker at 30. If you want to go ahead and you want to start building your tactical mastery, let's say like, you know, you really like mid-max the situations, you want to switch to defensive stance and disarm the mob real quick, and then, you know, hop back over and have that leftover rage. Sure, you can put points in tactical mastery. So that's what we are going to do. We are going to put a couple points in there, and then we will grab our 5. And now by level 26, you can get anger management, which is a great ability for keeping uptime on rage, whether you're tanking. And I talk about uptime on rage tanking or saving your rage for tanking all the time in my videos. So I do see the value in anger management here. Now avoid your two-handed weapon specialization, because that's an ability or points that you want to put into later in the game when you have you're just doing more damage. So obviously, you know, doing an extra 1% damage at 26 with your two hand, not really worth. So I do go anger management here. And now at around 27, this is where you really start to see actually some good, decent value in deep wounds. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of my points in deep wounds, and then that unlocks Big Daddy Impale, which increases the critical strike damage bonus of your abilities in all 3 stances. I go ahead and grab that, and then you can, if you want, you can, I'm going to back up a second. If you really want sweeping strikes at 30, go for it. If you put all your points in, you will get sweeping strikes right at 30. That's a great leveling tool, insanely overpowered ability for a warrior at level 30, especially if you get help with that whirlwind axe, or if you're a horde or possibly alliance. If you do RFK, you will have corpse maker, and that's just obviously massive. So you can take sweeping strikes here first and then come back to impale if you want. Now, this is kind of where at level 33, people kind of get stuck. Like, do I go and put point in critical strike with axes? Should I go put points in cruelty? I'm actually, depending on what you use, obviously you should be playing towards your racials a little bit here, but I do find that Alliance does get kind of stuck with axes early, especially if you take the Whirlwind Axe, and especially if you get Bone Biter from the SM quest reward, or if you get even potentially, like I said, Corpse Maker. So I always do find myself taking the axe specialization just to increase the crit. And then we will stop here by putting points in that. And then usually my next move here is either take the improved hamstring, which is big for hardcore, just for survivability purposes. And then you can just go back and put more points into cruelty, which increases your flat critical strike chance, which is, you know, a lot better at 38 than potentially doing it right at level 10. So again, I wasn't going to go too far into these builds, but this is your basic build. What I want you to take away from here is that the arms talent tree, especially in these first 3 tiers, has way more value than any of these other talent trees right here. They just do, and we're going to talk about them in a little bit, but I am going to stop here at level 38. I do have other videos that go into like more end game scenarios. So let's just kind of backtrack real quick again. I like to take, you should be taking Rend all the way. And now before I go further, you should be, honestly, in my opinion, you should be dual wielding. If you plan on dual wielding, obviously arms is great for two-handed weapons, but you can dual wield an arm spec, like especially in these first 3 tiers. There's nothing wrong with that, especially, you know, with that deep wounds and getting those critical strikes. So arms is, especially for the first 3, maybe even 4 tiers if you include impale, are very good, just as good for dual wield as it is two-hand. Do not think of arms as just like a two-handed talent tree, especially early on. So again, we're going to put 3 points in Rend. I go right to deflection. You can keep putting points in deflection if you want. I seem to be using charge all the time in the open world, get that improved rage generation, and then you can either go back to parry here, or you can start your tactical mastery, but at level 16, you don't really need that. So what I do, like I said, is I finish my parry, and then you kind of have the option here to go between deep wounds, improved overpower, or tactical mastery. Like I said, I take the overpower at level 21. Getting a 50% critical strike chance on overpower is huge. And then you can either take your deep wounds, which at level 21, deep wounds doesn't have much value. So that's why I ended up going tactical mastery first. Now I want to talk about the Fury build, and mine's more of a hybrid Fury arms build just because of deep wounds. Impale has a lot of value in dual wield, especially if you're dead set on doing Fury dual wield leveling. So I'm going to go through like two separate builds here. I'm going to do like my basic hybrid like arms Fury build, and then I'm just going to go, you know, balls deep down into Fury, and we'll look at the differences. So starting at our Fury build here. I still recommend going Rend. I think Rend is an awesome ability from like 1 to level 20, and it just gives you insane value at that low level as far as doing damage to mobs. 6 damage a tick to 10 to 12 damage a tick off of the ability is huge. So I do recommend going Rend right away, but if you don't want to, we can do Cruelty first. Booming Voice is extremely overrated, just not a talent that you need at all. It's just a quality of life improvement, increases your duration of battle shout and the radius it affects. But especially in a dungeon, most of your group is stacked up enough at least that they can all reach battle shout, which helps generate your threat. Now, Unbridled Wrath is a really good end game ability, especially for DPS warrior. You're literally just standing behind the boss, pumping on 85% of the bosses. You're going to get a lot of rage generation off your melee hits from Unbridled Wrath. But from a survivability, from a hardcore, from a dungeon tanking perspective, from open world leveling, especially at this really low level of 14, Demo Shout is definitely the way to go. I go all 5. I do not put any points in Unbridled Wrath until I respec, and then I dive down a little bit more. Now at level 19, you can get Piercing Howl, which is great for runners in the Barrens and for Westfall, the Defias guys. If you're still grinding in that area, Red Bridge has a lot of orcs that run away, a lot of gnolls, a lot of murlocs, things like that. Or getting in the Duskwood, there's a lot of runners too. Also helps in a lot of dungeons. Piercing Howl just reduces all attack speed of all enemies by 50% for 6 seconds, and you can just keep stacking it onto. So it is a good ability. But I do like to go improve Battle Shout here. So we'll go with the improved Battle Shout first. We'll take our 5 here, and then we'll grab our Piercing Howl because maybe we want that for open leveling. Now for my hybrid build here, Enrage, obviously great talent, but I really try to put the brakes on here because at level 25, you don't really get much value out of this here. Just 5% on your offhand. Obviously, you keep building, but later game, it's way more worth. And I kind of say the same thing with Enrage too. I feel like you're kind of getting wasted talents. So I feel like this is the great time when you have these abilities. If you're dead set on being Fury, I think this is a great time where you start to head back over to the arms tree and then grab that deep wounds, because right around that level 30, 32 mark, you're actually going to see some decent value in deep wounds. And then obviously you'll get your impale. And then that's where you'll see flurry will make a bigger difference, enrage will make a bigger difference, things like that. So I do stop. I put the brakes here on at level 25, and then I do go back. And if you want to grab Ren now, obviously we have to get these. And then I do go parry. As I talked about, parry is a very underrated ability, but I stopped there because only my real mission here is to get to deep wounds. Now this is where it gets interesting. Obviously you forego thunderclap at all times, but if you prefer getting charge, if you prefer getting charged, especially if you're doing a lot of open world leveling, it's a great talent. But I am level 30 by now, and I do find myself getting a lot more value with tactical mastery now at this level than early teens. And plus now I have at level 30, I do have Berserker stance and potentially a whirlwind axe if someone is helping me. So stance dancing actually becomes a thing here. I usually will go all 5 here, and then boom. And then if I want to go back to Ren, fine. If I want to take overpower, I don't usually, but then you have your anger management. We'll talk about anger management later. Obviously it's a great tool for open world leveling and just keeping at pace. But now I have my deep wounds. I have to get impale. I need 15 points. This is where now you can take your anger management, and then you can take your improved charge. If you just want to do 1 point, you're so desperate down to get to impale, and now you get your 2 in impale, and you stop right there. You are now level 42. The amount of more value you get out of dual wield specialization is huge. The more value you get out of enrage is huge right now. We were looking at putting points in enraged at level 25, 26, 27 compared to 42 now with plate gear. You definitely have a way better weapon. Enraged is the way to go here. So now we're going to take our points in enrage. You can stop at 4 if you want, so you can get Death Wish at 46. Or you can stall Death Wish a little bit more, and you can take improved execute if you want. I'm just going to go ahead and put my last point in here actually, and then I'm going to take Death Wish, and then you're kind of stuck here. So now this is where it is time. You are now level 49. So now the value in this offhand damage is huge. You can stop at 3 if you want to get the God tier talent, which is Flurry. Grab all of those, and then boom, you can get Bloodthirst, and then obviously going down here, you finish off your dual spec. Now I went all the way to level 59, so I kind of told you I wasn't going that far, but I saw the flurry procs, man. I was getting carried away, but that's like my hybrid Fury build. So I always put, the brakes right when I get my 5 points in Battle Shout, because I feel like these don't have value at that low level. And then that's why I really do some soul searching, and I try to get deep wounds as quickly as possible, because then you are in your mid 30s by then, and you just have way more depth value with the deep wounds than you would be getting with your dual wield specialization and enrage. So now let's just say you want to go balls deep into Fury. You don't care about rend and all that. You are just going to go down the cruelty. You are going to do the same exact thing. You can take your piercing howl, and then you're stuck here. Obviously, like we were talking about, this is where we would stop. Obviously, you want to take enraged dual wield spec at level, what? Let's take these back at 28. All the way back, you're at 25 right now. No value in that. So you have to go enraged, go all 4. And if you want Death Wish at 30, that'd be a super interesting talent to have at level 30, and one that I just feel like it doesn't really have that much value at level 30. So I would take my dual wield offhand first, because now I am level 34 with this. And then I can go to my flurry or take Death Wish. We'll take Death Wish, go to our flurry, and then we have Bloodthirst right at level 40. So those are my 2 arms builds, Fury, I'm sorry, 2 of my Fury builds, Fury with hybrid arms, getting that deep wounds. And then if you're dead set on just being nothing but Fury, that's just a full blown Fury talent tree. So now we're going to talk about the least favorite of everybody, but people do use this build, and that is protection. Again, these are just leveling builds, as it's nothing to do with end game. So with our protection build, I say it all the time, there's really no value in the first 3 tiers here, except for Last Stand and the improved revenge. Toughness is great late game, but getting armor value for male items 2, 4, 6% is just no value in that, and I don't find much value in anticipation either. So you really have no choice here but to go shield spec, and a lot of people don't play with sword shield, but hey, if that's how you want to play, if you're doing a certain challenge, by all means go for it. I usually go all 5 here, and then you really have no choice here. You have to take the improved blood rage, the toughness, there's just not much value in that. And Iron Will is a decent talent, I would say. It was just kind of in like a really weird spot in this tree. I feel like it would have more value down here. So obviously you need to choose between level 16. Do you want 2% armor bonus, which is literally like nothing at that level, or do you just want the increased chance to resist stun and charm effects, which also a lot of mobs early level don't really have those abilities either. They're more just flat out tank and spanks. So if you want, go ahead and take the toughness. Now, this is where it gets interesting. You can get Last Stand at level 19. Last Stand is easily one of the best warrior talents in all of the trees. Truly, it will save you in a dungeon, in a raid, in open world leveling. Like, it is insanely overpowered. Like, you will not die with Last Stand on. It's a great ability. So if you want to take it right at 19, go for it. Now, what a lot of people like to see here is improved revenge, and then obviously Defiance increases your threat generated while in defensive stance. But honestly, at level 19, if you're just sitting in defensive stance sundering, you shouldn't be losing threat at all. So go ahead and ignore Defiance for now. Revenge Respect is good for leveling. It is good for pre-best farming end game. It is good for dungeons while just grinding. It is not good for late game, because there's a lot of, pretty much all the mobs in end game or raids just are immune to that. So not worth, but right now it is worth. But I'm going to go ahead. I will take Last Stand right here at 19. And then here's improved shield block, which allows your shield block ability to block an additional attack. Now, this is where I need you to listen. You only get that value with 1 point. If you put more points into shield block, it is a waste, literally. You just need to put in that 1 point because it gives you that additional attack. Once you take that additional attack, go ahead and get your improved revenge. Beautiful for leveling, and now you have unlocked your next tier. I never take improved disarm. Now, improved taunt is good. If you're really just a cautious player and you do the majority of your leveling through dungeons with friends. But obviously with the 24 lockout on hardcore, that is, on fresh, if you're just dungeon spamming, it's a great talent. Also improved Sunder Armor just reduces your rage. That's also a good one too, because a lot of these early level dungeons, you're literally just pressing Demo Shout and tab sundering. So if you like the taunt better, it's kind of just a pick and choose really. I do like to go the improved taunt, and then you can just literally come right back and get improved Sunder Armor. We're at level 29. You can get Concussion Blow. You can pretty much use it on every mob in the open world and dungeon. And until you get to like your, 45, 50 plus. So you can take it there. You can take improved shield blast and bash, which I mean, silences targets, but I mean, no. And then shield wall increases the duration by 3 seconds. And then obviously another 3 seconds with another talent. Again, at level 29, no. Do you see why this is? I'm just going to stop here at 30 because now you're pretty much stuck here until higher level. And then this is where you can start building, either grabbing, your deep wounds, or you want to build some crit. As you can see, the protection build, just, you're not really getting much value out of it except for revenge stun and last stand. And then you're getting improved cooldowns on your dungeons. I just don't see the value in it, but hey, I wanted to go over it anyways. But real quick, that was just some very basic, talent guides for you guys. And I really hope you enjoyed the video. And I'll see you guys around. I got plenty of videos coming up, so be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys a different time.